What if the ordinary 2017 D Lincoln penny sitting in your change jar right now is hiding something collectors would actually pay hundreds, or even more, to own? Before you spend another penny, look closely at the date, the tiny D mint mark, and especially the condition. Because with modern coins, one tiny difference can turn an ordinary-looking cent into a collector's prize. But there's an important twist to this story. The 2017 D penny is not normally a $1,000,000 coin. The real mystery is why some examples have sold for surprisingly high prices, and what you should actually look for before you toss yours back into circulation. Today, we're taking a close look at the 2017 D Lincoln cent, the clues that separate an ordinary example from an exceptional one, the mistakes that can destroy its collector value, and the highest documented prices you should know about. And stay until the end, because the most important detail isn't the date. It's something you can spot with your own eyes. The 2017 D Lincoln cent was struck at the Denver Mint, and the little D beneath the date tells you where it was made. This is the modern Lincoln cent with the shield reverse, featuring Abraham Lincoln on the front and the Union shield on the back. It weighs about 2.50 grams, measures 19 millimeters across, and is made from copper-plated zinc. Sounds ordinary, right? That's exactly what makes this coin interesting. The United States Mint produced billions of Lincoln cents, and PCGS lists the regular 2017 D issue with a mintage of approximately 4.27 billion coins. That means the typical 2017 D penny is common, and finding one in your pocket does not automatically mean you've found a fortune. But here's where things get exciting. Collectors don't simply ask, "What year is it?" They ask, "What happened to this particular coin? Was it struck perfectly? Was it preserved immediately after leaving the mint? Does it have unusually sharp details? Are there distracting marks? Is the original red color still blazing across the surfaces? And most importantly, is it one of the highest grade survivors? That last question can change everything. Imagine two identical 2017 D pennies sitting side by side. Both have the same date. Both have the same D mint mark. Both were made from the same basic materials. One has spent years rattling around inside cash registers, pockets, cup holders, and coin jars. The other was protected almost immediately and survived with nearly flawless surfaces. To most people, they're both 1-cent coins. To a serious collector, they can be completely different animals. And this is where many people make their first mistake. They see a shiny penny and assume shiny means valuable. Not necessarily. A coin can look bright while still having tiny scratches, contact marks, weak details, or other problems that reduce its grade. Professional grading considers the overall preservation of the coin, not simply whether it looks new to your eyes. Now look at Lincoln's portrait. Check the cheek. Check the jaw. Look around the fields in front of Lincoln's face and behind his head. These open areas are extremely important because marks can stand out immediately under magnification. Then move your attention to the reverse. Look closely at the shield, the lettering, the rim, and the open fields. You're looking for unusual doubling, die problems, striking abnormalities, or other features that might deserve further research. But don't confuse damage with a mint-made error. That mistake happens constantly. A coin gets dropped on concrete, squeezed by a machine, scratched against another coin, or damaged by chemicals. Years later, somebody sees the strange mark and calls it a rare mint error. Usually, it isn't. A genuine mint error generally has characteristics that can be connected to the manufacturing process. That distinction matters because collectors pay for documented varieties and errors, not random damage. Now here comes the number that gets people's attention. According to PCGS auction records, a 2017 D Shield cent graded MS68 red reached $1,595 in a 2021 sale. That is an astonishing price compared with 1 cent. But notice something important. It was not an ordinary circulated penny. It was an exceptionally high-grade example. PCGS also records a 2017 D example graded MS68 red-brown selling for $53 in 2023. So, could a normal 2017 D penny make you a millionaire? No. There is no reliable evidence that an ordinary 2017 D Lincoln cent is worth $1 million. And that's actually good news, because it means you don't have to believe every sensational claim you see online. The real opportunity is learning how to recognize the difference between a common coin and an extraordinary specimen. Think about what happens when billions of coins are produced. Most experience wear. Some develop scratches. Some pick up stains. Some lose their original red appearance. Others are damaged before collectors ever notice them. Only a tiny fraction can remain in truly elite condition. And when collectors compete for the finest known examples, prices can rise dramatically. This is why condition matters so much. A circulated 2017 D penny will generally be worth around face value. A nice uncirculated coin may attract more interest. A professionally graded coin in an elite condition can command a much stronger price. And an unusual, authenticated mint error or recognized variety could create a completely different situation. But there's another trap. Do not clean the coin. If you discover a beautiful-looking 2017 D penny, resist the temptation to polish it, scrub it, soak it, or use household chemicals to make it shine. That can permanently damage the original surface. Collectors generally prefer coins with their natural surfaces intact. A cleaned coin may actually be worth less than an untouched coin that looks slightly dull. So if you think you have something special, put the cleaning supplies away. There's also a simple test you can perform right now. Take the penny and hold it under a strong light. Tilt it slowly. Don't stare at it from one angle. Move it. As the light travels across the surface, scratches, dents, and disturbances may become much easier to see. Next, use a magnifying glass if you have one. Look at the date. Look at the D. Look at the lettering. Look at Lincoln's portrait. Then inspect the reverse. Ask yourself one question. Does anything look genuinely unusual, or am I simply seeing damage? That question can save you from wasting time, and it can also help you notice something worth investigating. Here's another surprising point. The red color on a modern copper-plated zinc cent can be important when collectors evaluate high-grade examples. PCGS separates regular 2017 D Lincoln cents into brown, red-brown, and red categories. That doesn't mean every red penny is valuable. It means color designation becomes part of the grading picture for premium examples. So if you find a 2017 D cent that looks almost brand new, don't immediately spend it. Set it aside. Compare it with other 2017 D cents. Look for the cleanest surfaces. And if the coin appears genuinely exceptional, consider getting professional advice before making any decision. But remember, professional grading costs money. So don't send every common penny to a grading company. Start by learning. That's the secret experienced collectors understand. They don't chase every rumor. They study. They compare. They verify. They check auction records. And they learn what the market has actually paid. Because there is a huge difference between an internet claim saying, "This penny is worth $1 million, and a documented auction result showing what a real buyer actually paid. And that brings us back to the 2017 D Lincoln penny. The $1 million story is exciting, but the truth is even more useful. This coin is common in circulation. Its regular mintage is enormous. Its ordinary value is usually close to 1 cent. But exceptional condition can make a modern coin surprisingly desirable, and documented auction records prove that the very best examples can bring prices far above face value. That means the real treasure hunt isn't about believing every unbelievable price. It's about finding the one coin that is different from the millions around it. So check your change. Check that old jar on the shelf. Check the coins sitting in your car. And if you find a 2017 D Lincoln penny, don't just glance at it and move on. Look at the surfaces. Look at the details. Look for legitimate errors. And most importantly, protect the coin if it looks unusually nice. You might not have a $1 million penny, but you could have a coin that teaches you exactly how modern coin collecting works. And perhaps, if you get extraordinarily lucky, a high-grade or unusual example worth far more than its 1 cent face value. Now I want to know, have you ever found a 2017 D penny that looked almost perfect? Did you notice anything unusual on Lincoln's portrait, the lettering, or the shield reverse? Take another look before you spend it, because sometimes the smallest coins can hide the biggest surprises. And if you enjoy discovering the hidden stories and real values behind American coins, subscribe for more coin mysteries, valuable varieties, and overlooked treasures that could be sitting in ordinary change. What if I told you a 1-cent coin sitting in a jar, drawer, or old coffee can could be worth far more than 1 cent? Before you spend that 2018 D Lincoln penny, look closely. Because the tiny letter D on this coin could lead you to a detail most people completely overlook. And in the world of rare coins, one tiny mistake can make an ordinary penny dramatically more interesting. Now, let's clear up something important right away. A normal 2018 D Lincoln penny is not a $1 million coin. But that does not mean every 2018 D penny is worthless. The real story is about condition, errors, varieties, and the possibility that your coin is different from the billions of ordinary cents produced for circulation. And that is exactly what makes this coin worth checking. The 2018 D Lincoln cent was struck at the Denver Mint and carries the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the front. Flip it over, and you will see the Lincoln Memorial design that appeared on cents for decades. Sounds completely ordinary, right? That is where the mystery begins. Because collectors do not simply look at the date. They look at how the coin was made. They look at the surfaces. They look at the strike. They look for unusual doubling, missing details, die damage, striking mistakes, and other characteristics that can separate an ordinary coin from a collectible one. And with a coin this modern, there is another reason you should pay attention. Modern coins are produced in enormous quantities, which means most examples are common. But when production mistakes happen, they can create unusual pieces that collectors may want to investigate. So, if you have a 2018 D penny, don't immediately throw it into the next handful of change. Take a closer look. Start with the mint mark. That little D tells you the coin was made at Denver. On a normal 2018 D cent, the mint mark should look properly formed and appropriately positioned. But collectors know that unusual-looking mint marks can sometimes attract attention. However, here's the important part. A strange-looking mint mark does not automatically mean you have a rare error. Coins get scratched. Coins get worn. Coins get damaged after leaving the mint. Other coins can hit them. Machines can leave marks. Even dirt can create the illusion of an important variety. This is where many people get confused. A damaged penny and a mint error can look surprisingly similar. So don't assume that every unusual mark means $1 million. Instead, look at the entire coin. Now examine Lincoln's portrait. Look closely around the date. Look at the letters. Check Lincoln's ear, beard, hair, bow tie, and other fine details. Are there signs of unusual doubling? Does a letter appear to have a second image? Does part of the date seem strangely duplicated? Is there an unusual raised feature that looks like it was created during striking rather than after the coin entered circulation? These are the kinds of questions collectors ask. And here's a fascinating thought. Imagine two pennies with the exact same date and mint mark sitting next to each other. One might be worth only face value. The other could attract collector interest because of its condition or an unusual minting characteristic. Same year. Same mint. Completely different story. Now turn the coin over. The reverse shows the Lincoln Memorial, with the words 1 cent and United States of America. In 2018, this design was still being used before the later transition to the Union Shield reverse. Look carefully at the memorial. Check the lettering. Check the columns. Look for unusual doubling or major striking abnormalities. But again, don't confuse scratches with genuine mint errors. A scratch usually cuts into the surface. A genuine striking characteristic is often raised or integrated into the design. That difference can matter enormously. And there is another factor that can change the conversation completely. Condition. A 2018 D penny pulled from circulation may have scratches, discoloration, fingerprints, and contact marks. That is normal. But a coin that has been carefully preserved with brilliant surfaces, sharp details, and minimal marks can be much more attractive to collectors. Think about it this way. The coin may be only a few years old, but collectors are already paying attention to exceptional examples from modern issues. And that creates a fascinating possibility. What if someone unknowingly spent a coin that would later become desirable? It happens. People rarely inspect every penny before putting it into a vending machine, cash register, or jar. That's why coin collectors search pocket change in the first place. They are looking for something other people missed. Now let's talk about the $1 million claim. You may have seen videos or posts claiming that a 2018 D Lincoln penny can be worth $1 million. Be extremely careful with claims like that. There is no reason to believe a normal 2018 D Lincoln cent is automatically worth anywhere near $1 million. In fact, most ordinary examples are worth approximately their face value. The potential excitement comes from extraordinary errors, exceptional specimens, or coins with unusual characteristics, not simply from owning a 2018 D penny. And this distinction is incredibly important, because the date alone does not create a fortune. The mint mark alone does not create a fortune. Even a shiny appearance does not automatically create a fortune. The real question is, what exactly do you have? That's the mystery you need to solve. Imagine finding a penny with an unusual feature and putting it in a small envelope instead of spending it. You photograph both sides. You examine it under magnification. You compare it with known examples. Then, if something truly unusual appears, you take it to a reputable coin dealer or professional grading service. That's how a potentially interesting coin becomes a properly evaluated coin. And here's something else you should never do. Do not clean it. If you discover a coin that appears unusual, resist the temptation to polish it until it shines. Cleaning can damage the original surface and potentially reduce collector appeal. A natural coin with original surfaces can be much more desirable than a polished coin covered in hairline scratches. So leave it alone. Handle it carefully by the edges. Keep it in a safe holder. And document what you found. Now let's get to the question everyone wants answered. How much could a 2018 D penny actually be worth? For a normal circulated example, you're generally looking at 1 cent. For an ordinary uncirculated example, the value can be higher, but usually not dramatically higher. The interesting possibilities come when the coin has exceptional condition, a recognized variety, or a genuine mint error. And that is where values can separate sharply. A common penny may remain a penny. A certified high-grade example can become collectible. A significant and authenticated mint error can command substantially more. But $1 million valuation? That would require extraordinary evidence and an exceptional coin, not simply a 2018 D mint mark. So if you own one, don't panic, and don't start planning your retirement just yet. Instead, start inspecting. Because the real value of this hobby is learning how to recognize what other people overlook. Here's a simple challenge. Go find your change jar. Find your old penny rolls. Check the cup in your car. Look through the coins sitting on your desk. And when you find a 2018 D Lincoln cent, examine both sides under good lighting. Look at the date. Look at the mint mark. Study the lettering. Inspect the portrait. Check the reverse. Look for unusual doubling, major striking abnormalities, or anything that appears fundamentally different from a normal example. Then compare it carefully with reliable references. And remember, one of the biggest mistakes beginners make is falling in love with a price before identifying the coin. Don't start with, "How much is my penny worth?" Start with, "What exactly is this penny?" That question can save you from false claims, misleading listings, and expensive mistakes. And there is something beautiful about that. A coin that most people would ignore can become a tiny piece of history worth studying. Maybe yours is completely ordinary. Maybe it's an unusually preserved example. Maybe it has an interesting error. Or maybe you simply discover that the $1 million story was exaggerated. Either way, you learned something valuable. So take another look at that 2018 D penny before you spend it. That tiny D doesn't guarantee a fortune, but it does give you a reason to inspect the coin more closely. And if you discover something unusual, don't clean it, don't alter it, and don't trust an unbelievable price tag from a random online post. Get the coin properly evaluated. Now I'm curious. Do you have a 2018 D Lincoln penny in your collection or pocket change right now? Look at it before you move on to your next purchase. You might discover something you never noticed before. And if you enjoy uncovering the hidden stories behind America's coins, subscribe for more rare coin discoveries, surprising errors, and valuable pieces that could be hiding in plain sight. Because sometimes, the smallest coin in your pocket is the one that makes you stop and look twice. What if the 2019 Lincoln penny sitting in your pocket right now is worth far more than 1 cent? Before you spend another penny, look at the tiny space under the date. If there is no mint mark, you may have a coin that people online claim could be worth $1 million. But here is the part almost nobody tells you. The truth is much more interesting than the rumor. Today, we are going to uncover exactly what a 2019 Lincoln cent with no mint mark is, why it has attracted so much attention, what could actually make one valuable, and which mistakes could cause you to miss a rare variety or error. And stay with me because near the end, I will explain the biggest clue that separates an ordinary 2019 penny from a coin collectors may actually want. First, let us clear up the mystery surrounding that missing letter. On United States coins, a mint mark tells you where the coin was produced. A D means Denver. An S generally identifies San Francisco, and a P identifies Philadelphia on many modern coins. But there is an important exception that confuses new collectors. Philadelphia cents traditionally do not carry a mint mark. So when you find a 2019 Lincoln cent with no mint mark, that does not automatically mean something went wrong at the mint. In fact, it is exactly what you would expect from a normal 2019 Philadelphia penny. And that changes everything. The missing mint mark alone is not the treasure today. The real mystery is whether your 2019 penny has something unusual beyond the normal Philadelphia production. This is where many people get confused. A coin can be common by date and mint, yet an individual example can become interesting because of condition, an unusual die variety, a dramatic minting error, or an exceptionally rare production mistake. And that is where you should start looking. Instead, rotate the coin slowly. Look at Lincoln's portrait. Check the date. Examine the lettering. Look at the rim. Then turn it over and study the memorial design. You are not searching for something that merely looks old. You are searching for something that looks different from thousands of other 2019 cents. Does the coin have normal color and texture? Is the rim complete? Are the letters properly formed? Does the date look normal? Does the reverse appear centered? Are there strange raised areas, missing details, doubled features, cracks, or shapes that seem completely out of place? If everything looks ordinary, you probably have an ordinary penny. But if one detail seems impossible, stop before spending it. That single detail could be the beginning of a much more interesting story. Now, let us talk about the $1 million claim. You may see videos, posts, or advertisements suggesting that a 2019 no mint mark Lincoln cent is worth $1 million simply because it has no mint mark. That statement is misleading. There is no good reason to assume that a normal 2019 Philadelphia cent is automatically worth $1 million. Most are worth about their face value, especially in circulated condition. Because the fascinating part is that rare coins really can bring extraordinary prices. The key is that the value comes from rarity, condition, demand, and authentication, not from a magical combination of a date and a missing mint mark. If millions of ordinary coins were made with the same characteristics, collectors do not need to pay a fortune for them. But if only a tiny number contain a verified, dramatic error or an exceptionally rare variety, the equation changes. Supply drops. Interest rises. Competition can follow. And that is how a little piece of copper-colored metal can become a serious collectible. One of the most important things to understand about modern cents is condition. A 2019 penny that has spent years bouncing around in pockets, cash registers, cup holders, and coin jars will usually show scratches, marks, and wear. A sharply preserved example with brilliant surfaces can be more appealing to collectors, especially if it is professionally graded. But even a perfect-looking coin is not automatically worth thousands, let alone $1 million. Condition is only one piece of the puzzle. The next piece is the error. Minting errors happen when something goes wrong during the production process. Some errors can be obvious, while others are surprisingly subtle. Depending on the error, collectors may look for dramatic off-center strikes, major die breaks, clipped planchets, doubled features, wrong planchets, or other unusual characteristics. However, there is another trap here. A strange-looking coin is not automatically an error. Damage after the coin leaves the mint can create dents, scratches, flattening, discoloration, and distortions that look exciting to an inexperienced collector. A coin crushed by machinery, squeezed by a vise, or damaged by another object may look unusual but have little collectible value. That is why authentication matters. If you believe your 2019 no mint mark cent has a major mint error, Do not immediately trust a random online price guide or a social media post. Compare it with reputable references, photograph both sides clearly, and consider getting an expert opinion. For potentially valuable coins, professional authentication and grading can make a huge difference. And here is another trap. A coin does not become rare because someone writes rare next to a photograph. It becomes rare because the facts support the claim. That means population, documented examples, genuine mint characteristics, condition, and collector demand all matter. So what should you actually do if you find a 2019 Lincoln cent with no mint mark? First, keep calm. Second, do not clean it. Third, inspect it carefully under good lighting. Fourth, compare it with a normal 2019 Philadelphia cent. And fifth, if you notice a dramatic feature that appears to be part of the original minting process, have it evaluated before making any decision. You open an old jar of change. At the bottom is a 2019 penny. No mint mark. At first, you think you have discovered the $1 million secret. Then you inspect it. The rim looks unusual. The strike appears dramatically off-center. A section of the design is missing in a way that normal wear cannot explain. Suddenly, the coin is no longer interesting because it says 2019. It is interesting because of what happened to it during production. That distinction is everything today. And if a genuinely rare error is confirmed, the value could be dramatically higher than 1 cent. But there is no honest way to promise $1 million price without a specific, authenticated coin and real market evidence. So what is a normal 2019 no-mint mark Lincoln cent worth? For most circulated examples, very little beyond face value. Uncirculated coins can be worth more, particularly in high grades, but values vary according to condition, demand, and the exact issue. A rare certified error or variety can be worth substantially more. The important word is can, not will. That one word protects you from some of the biggest coin collecting myths online. And here is another mistake to avoid. Never assume that every 2019 penny without a mint mark is a special no mint mark error. Philadelphia coins without mint marks are normal. The absence of a letter is normally expected. Now take a look at your own coins. Do you have a 2019 Lincoln cent? Check beneath the date. If there is no mint mark, remember what you learned today. The missing mark alone is normal for Philadelphia. But then inspect the rest of the coin. Look for unusual strike characteristics, major errors, exceptional preservation, or features that clearly separate it from an ordinary example. And if you find something strange, do not throw it back into the jar. Set it aside. Take clear photos. Compare it very carefully. And get a qualified opinion before believing any huge valuation. Because sometimes the most valuable thing you can discover is not a $1 million coin. It is the knowledge that keeps you from overlooking a genuinely scarce one. So, is your 2019 Lincoln penny a $1 million treasure? Probably not if the only unusual feature is the missing mint mark. But could a 2019 cent with a legitimate, rare, dramatic minting error attract serious collector attention? Absolutely. And that is why you should never judge a coin in 3 seconds. The next time someone hands you a penny, look twice. Check the date. Check the mint mark. Study the design. Inspect the rim. And most importantly, ask one simple question. What happened to this coin before it reached my hands? That question is where the real hunt begins. If you have a 2019 no mint mark Lincoln cent sitting in your change jar, go check it right now. And if you discover something unusual, tell us what you found. You might be looking at an ordinary penny, or you might have uncovered a fascinating piece of American minting history. Either way, keep searching. Because the biggest mistake a coin hunter can make is spending a coin before checking it. Subscribe for more hidden money secrets, rare US coins, surprising mint errors, and the stories behind the pennies people overlook every day. Your next coin could be sitting in plain sight. Stop scrolling because that ordinary 2020 Lincoln penny in your pocket could be hiding something collectors actually care about. And the biggest surprise is that the tiny D under the date is not, by itself, what makes this coin valuable. If you have a 2020 penny from Denver, do not spend the next one you find until you look at it closely. Today, we are going to uncover what makes a 2020 Lincoln cent interesting, which mistakes can turn a 1-cent coin into a collectible, what people often get wrong about $1 million claims, and exactly what you should check before deciding whether your coin deserves a closer look. The first thing to understand is what you are holding. The 2020 D Lincoln cent is the familiar United States 1-cent coin featuring Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Union Shield on the reverse. The small D mint mark tells you that the coin was struck at the Denver Mint. And here is the part that can fool almost anyone. Seeing a D does not automatically mean you found a rare penny. Millions of 2020 D cents were made for circulation. So a normal example, even a bright and attractive one, is generally worth around its face value rather than a fortune. That may sound disappointing, but wait. The ordinary coin is not the real story. The real story is what happens when a modern coin leaves the mint with something it was never supposed to have. And sometimes, one tiny minting mistake can create a coin that stands out from millions of ordinary pieces forever in the eyes of collectors worldwide. Think about the process. Blank metal planchets enter a high-speed production system. Dies strike designs onto the planchets with enormous pressure. Coins are inspected, counted, transported, and eventually released into the economy. Most pieces come out correctly. But when something goes wrong, even for a tiny fraction of a second, a coin can become unusual. That is where your 2020 D penny becomes interesting. Look at the date first. Make sure it clearly says 2020. Then look directly below the date for the D. Do not assume a blurry mark is a D. Lighting, scratches, dirt, and damage can create shapes that look like mint marks or letters. Now flip the coin over. You should see the Union Shield, the words 1 cent, and the familiar motto United States of America. This reverse is important because many collectors are not simply looking for a 2020 D penny. They are looking for a 2020 D penny with a genuine mint-made error, unusual variety, or exceptionally high grade. And this is where many people make their first big mistake. They see a strange line, a doubled letter, a missing detail, or a dark patch and immediately call it a rare error. Most of the time, that is not what happened. A coin can be damaged after leaving the mint. It can be scratched by another coin, flattened by machinery, exposed to chemicals, stained by moisture, or altered by someone trying to make it look unusual. Collectors generally do not treat ordinary post-mint damage like a major mint error. So how can you tell the difference? Start with the strongest clue. Does the unusual feature look like it was created during striking? A true mint error usually affects the coin in a way that makes sense mechanically. You might see an off-center strike, a broad strike, a clipped planchet, a dramatic die problem, or another recognized mint error. The exact appearance matters. For example, an off-center strike can leave part of the design missing because the blank was not positioned correctly between the dies. That is very different from a coin that simply has a chunk scraped off after it entered circulation. Here is another pattern interrupt. Grab a flashlight. Tilt your penny slowly under the light. You are not looking for magic. You are looking for details. Check Lincoln's portrait. Look at the lettering. Examine the date. Study the mint mark. Then move to the reverse and inspect the shield, lettering, and rim. Why so carefully? Because condition can make a huge difference. A heavily circulated 2020 D penny with scratches, stains, and worn surfaces is unlikely to command serious collector money. But a pristine example with strong red color, sharp details, and an exceptional certified grade can be much more desirable. Professional grading companies use numerical grades to describe condition, and modern Lincoln cents can receive very high grades when they have outstanding surfaces and eye appeal. PCGS population records show certified examples of 2020 D cents in high grades, including red examples graded at the upper end of the mint state scale. That tells us something important. The valuable part is not simply the year. It is the combination of rarity, condition, demand, and authentication. Now let's address the claim that a 2020 D penny can be worth $1 million. This is where you need to be extremely careful. There is no reason to assume that an ordinary 2020 D Lincoln cent is $1 million coin. A sensational headline can make it sound as though every penny from this year is a hidden jackpot. That is misleading. $1 million valuation would require extraordinary evidence, such as a truly unique and historically important error, an authenticated discovery, or a major auction result supporting that number. Without that evidence, calling a normal 2020 D penny worth $1 million is simply not responsible. And that actually makes the hunt more exciting. Why? Because now you know what to look for instead of chasing a fantasy. Imagine finding a 2020 cent that has a dramatic mint error and then having it authenticated by a respected grading service. Suddenly, you are no longer asking, "Is this penny worth 1 cent?" You are asking, "What exactly happened to this coin at the mint, and how many others exist?" That is the question collectors pay attention to. And scarcity matters. If thousands of coins share the same normal appearance, collectors have plenty to choose from. If only a tiny number share a verified error, competition can increase. But there is another trap. Do not clean the coin. This is one of the easiest ways to destroy potential collector value. Scrubbing, polishing, rubbing, or using chemicals can leave permanent marks. Even if your coin has a legitimate error, cleaning can make it less desirable. Instead, handle it by the edges and store it in a proper holder or protective flip. And do not rush to sell it to the first person who says, "I'll give you $50. If you believe you have something unusual, get clear photographs, compare the coin with reliable references, and consider professional authentication when the potential value justifies the cost. Now, take another look at your 2020 D penny. Does the D look normal? Is the date sharply struck? Is the rim complete? Are there unusual gaps or distortions? Does the coin appear dramatically off-center? Do any letters or numbers show genuine doubling that looks part of the strike rather than damage? And most importantly, does the strange feature repeat in a way that makes sense for a minting error? That last question can save you from chasing hundreds of false alarms. Here is the value reveal. For an ordinary circulated 2020 D Lincoln cent, think face value. For a nicer uncirculated example, the value can still be modest unless it has exceptional grade, certification, or a recognized variety or error. The real potential comes from unusual pieces, especially dramatic and authenticated mint errors. So if someone tells you every 2020 D penny is worth $1 million, don't believe it. But if you find a 2020 D penny with a genuine, major, authenticated error, don't casually throw it back into the change jar either. The difference between those two situations is enormous. And that's the hidden lesson behind modern coin hunting. The treasure is not always the date. Sometimes it is the mistake. Sometimes it is the condition. Sometimes it is a tiny detail that millions of people never notice. And sometimes the most valuable thing you can find is simply the knowledge to recognize what you are holding. So before you spend your next 2020 D penny, put it under a light and give it 30 seconds. Check the date. Check the D. Check the rim. Flip it over. Study the shield. Look for anything unusual. But remember that unusual does not automatically mean valuable. If you have a 2020 D penny that looks different from every other one you've seen, tell me what you found in the comments. Is the coin off center? Is the lettering doubled? Is the mint mark unusual? Or does it have another feature you cannot explain? And if you want more videos that help you separate ordinary pocket change from genuinely collectible US coins, subscribe and stay with us. Because the next coin you check could be old, could be rare, could be an error. And the only way to know is to look closely before you spend it.